to say, I keep forgetting to put this in videos. I have a second channel. If you want to check it out, you can check it out. If you don't want to, that's completely fine. But I thought I would I'm leaving the link in the description. You guys can check out if you want to, but you don't have to. Okay, hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, right, now I took a lot of time making this because I wanted it to be perfect. So I basically have rewritten the Pretty Little Liars season 6 finale and season 7 finale for something that I would have done instead. So we have different A's, we have different situations. Some of the structure within this rewrite is similar to the finales, but I've just changed certain characters and certain aspects within the finale as if I was rewriting it and it was my own, and what I would have done differently to what the actual show gave us. So I've put this all in a PowerPoint, and it took me a long time to make this, and I did make this at 3 a.m. So I think this all 100% makes sense and connects together, but if there's anything that I've slipped up on, I will reply to it in the comments. Not to toot my own horn, as they say, but all I'm saying is that the writer's strike is over and we need to get back in the writer's room. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Let's just start because I'm really excited because guys, I've cracked it. I've actually cracked it. This is the season 6 finale. Not last episode, but the Game Over Charles. It starts off the same. They go to this prom party thing and Alison gets taken by this A, and she's in that Radley room that they're in initially where Cece obviously takes her. So Alison wakes up and she's in this room in Radley and she sees all these family photos because we're at the stage now, we need to find out who Charles De Laurentiis is. And obviously they know that Charles De Laurentiis is a family member of theirs. So this stays the same. Then continuing on, this stays the same. The Liars and Mona get put into this you know what room I'm talking about. However, in my story, Sarah Harvey is not there. We're forgetting about Sarah Harvey. Sarah Harvey does not exist past season 1 for me. Okay, Sarah Harvey's not a thing. She's absolutely not a thing in my rewrite, guys. I don't care. I'm erasing her character. Does not exist. She exists, but doesn't exist like she exists in the show. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Stays the same in terms of Charles De Laurentiis has knocked out Jason and Kenneth, and Alison obviously sees them and she's like, what is going on? And then obviously we see A. Exactly how the Cece reveal is playing out to a T to this stage, right? This is the same. The Cece reveal, I really, really liked the Cece reveal, and I didn't have an issue with how it was done. I had an issue with the story because there was things that didn't make sense, but the actual reveal and how it was done, I didn't really have an issue with it. But that's why the actual reveal is staying the same, because I really liked it. Obviously, we see A, and we're like, oh my god, who is it? Don't, because who is it, guys? Who is it? Obviously, Alison drops her. How could you do this? We're family. Right. Who is Charles De Laurentiis in my story? Who is A in my story? Are you ready? Are you sat? Be sat, everybody. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, Wren. Gagged. Everybody was quiet. Everyone took a breath. Wren is Charles De Laurentiis? Yeah, I'm not even lying and I'm not even joking. Wren turns around. A and Charles is Wren. How could this possibly be? What's the backstory? Hold on a minute, because the story, we've only just started. This is just the top coat. We've got to delve deep in. So be sat. Wren is obviously Charles De Laurentiis, and the overall story in terms of childhood is kind of the same to Cece's. In terms of Charles accidentally hurt Alison when he was a baby, but it was purely an accident, and he was just trying to look after Alison, because Alison was crying. Sorry, I have a hair in my eye. It's really annoying me. Alison was crying, and Jessica De Laurentiis is like in her garden, too busy gardening. Girl, get up those stairs and shush the baby. Anyway, don't know where Kenneth is, but yeah, Charles is like, right, I'm gonna give Alison a bath, try and calm her down. But then obviously he accidentally kind of like burns her, and Kenneth obviously runs in. We know the scene, everybody. So then Kenneth persuades Jessica to put Charles in Radley. Wren / Charles, when he's a kid, he's Charles, but then he changes his name later on. So Charles / Wren meets Bethany Young at Radley, and they become really close, right? Like this, right? And this is when Charles starts to explore kind of more feminine clothes, and obviously Jessica supports this. The Marion death I keep the same. The Marion death is still there. And Marlene King, let's talk 1-to-1, because in this show Marion has about 3 different times that she's dead, but I can confirm to everybody out there, this is when she dies in my story. This is when Marion dies, okay? She doesn't die later on. She doesn't die when Toby's an adult. She dies now. Now is the death. Now, that's it, okay? No more speculation, thank you, everybody. Jessica De Laurentiis, right, wants to obviously protect Charles, right? So Jessica pays somebody to cover up Marion's death. Now, in the actual show, we're told that this is Wilden. However, Wilden was 12 years old at this point, so unless they're doing child labour in the police department, don't think this could be real. Therefore, the person who I think Jessica, in my story, pays off to keep the Marion death a secret is no other than, everybody be sat, Eddie Lamb. Eddie Lamb. It's connecting, right? Eddie Lamb. This is how we're going to connect Eddie Lamb into the story. There's another connection later on I make between Eddie Lamb and the story, but this is how Eddie Lamb starts to be involved kind of in the whole Charles and Bethany thing. Eddie Lamb in the show obviously was one of Bethany's doctors, so it makes total sense. Do you see where I'm going here? When he was still kind of a child, a bit more grown up, but still kind of a child, Jessica sent Charles to go live with his biological dad, and his biological dad lives in England. Kenneth, obviously, at this stage, believes that Charles is dead. So Jessica's like, right, well, Charles can't be living with us then, can he? Jessica had an affair with Wren's / Charles's biological dad. Who this dad is, we will come to that. Don't worry, guys. We will come to that. Charles lives in England, and that's where he grows up the majority of the time from quite a young age. Charles grew up quite bitter, quite jealous, and he felt really abandoned by the De Laurentiis family. He had a really tough time with Kenneth growing up, and he was like, oh, well, Jessica's just got rid of me then. Do you know what I mean? But nonetheless, Charles changed his name to Wren, formed a new identity, right? And he got a really good education in England and decided to become a doctor. So Wren / Charles is now a lot more grown up. Wren returns to Radley when he's more grown up, and he reunites with Bethany. Obviously, they were really, really close and formed a really good bond in Radley. So he reunites with her. However, Bethany tells Wren that Jessica had an affair with Bethany's dad. And Bethany at this stage says that she's not seen her dad for years because he lives in England and he's not really tried to make effort with her. Do you see where this is going, everybody? Through this conversation, Wren and Bethany find out that they are half brother and sister. Yeah. Yeah. Do you see where I'm going with this, everybody? Oh my God. Bethany explains to Wren that Jessica had kept really close with her and took her on trips, and they just had a really, really good bond. So Wren kind of connects this, and he figures out that Jessica did this because Jessica obviously felt guilt and remorse for sending Charles away as a kid. She felt guilty for Bethany and then guilty for herself, and she kind of replaced Charles with Bethany and saw Bethany as her child because she didn't get to be a mum to Charles. Wren and Bethany mega fuming. So they come up with a plan. They want to get revenge on Jessica somehow. Obviously, you have to keep in mind these two people are still very mentally unstable. Wren has improved, but he always has that mental instability because he was in Radley, and Bethany was always very angry and had a lot of outbursts. So the revenge situation comes up quite quick. They don't even hesitate towards it. They straight away, they're like, right, we are going to get revenge. So Bethany is angry obviously because of the affair that Jessica had, but she's also revengeful because she didn't grow up with Charles, and Jessica ultimately took that away from her. And this whole time she had been lied to by Jessica, and someone who she thought she had a really close connection with, she ultimately was betrayed by. Wren is fuming because Jessica never told him about Bethany, and the fact that Jessica ultimately abandoned Charles and kind of not kicked him out of the family, but kind of just sent him away like he was nothing and he was never ever part of the family. And he grew a real resentment for the entirety of Rosewood because he was never able to be who he wanted to be, and he never felt accepted, and he always felt like he was the odd one out. Bethany seeks revenge. Bethany's like, well, if you took a sibling away from me, I'm gonna take someone close to you away from you. So Wren comes up with a revenge plot to get rid of Allison. Allison, ultimately, although not her fault, she was kind of the reason he got put into Radley and kind of got scathed out of the family, because Allison was always the golden child to Kenneth, and Kenneth loved Allison more than he loved anybody else. And Kenneth always prioritized Allison over anyone else in the family. And we see this a lot through Jason on the actual show as well. So Wren ultimately grew a real resentment for Allison. So they both kind of hatch a plan to get rid of Allison together. At this time, Wren starts kind of an interim job at Radley. And not necessarily a full stable job, but just kind of like a trial thing. Not a trial, kind of like an internship kind of thing. And obviously we see here he was able to get a visitor's pass for Cece. So he ultimately got a visitor's pass for Bethany so that Bethany could sneak out of Radley the night that Allison went missing. And Jessica had brought Bethany and Allison the same clothes like she did on the show with Cece and Bethany. But instead Jessica did it with Allison and Bethany. And that's why Bethany was wearing the same thing that Allison was wearing that night. Now, the outfit thing I'm not too certain on, because either you can just say the outfit thing was just a coincidence, or Jessica had seen her that day and given her the clothes. That's up for interpretation. We get to the night that Allison disappeared, okay? The night she was gone. So, in my story, Wren kind of watches from a distance as Bethany kind of does the dirty work. Bethany's a bit more violent than Charles / Wren. So Wren kind of watches from a distance because he's kind of like, he made the plan and Bethany's going to do it. Do you know what I mean? So Bethany hits Allison, okay? And Jessica is forced to bury Alison alive because Bethany is blackmailing her about the whole Charles thing and about Bethany's affair and kind of Jessica's kind of secret double life that she kind of lives. Jessica is forced to bury her alive. In my story, in my rewrite, Cece is living with Aunt Carol. However, at this stage, she knows that Mary Drake is her mum. Mary Drake has always been her mum, and Cece is aware of that. She knows who Mary Drake is. There's no secret there. We don't know who Mary Drake is at this stage. We just hear her name being told, but we don't know who she is. We just know she exists, but not who she is or ultimately her connection. We just know that she's Cece's mum. So Jessica ultimately kind of brought her up. And they were really, really close, formed a really, really close bond. Jessica, kind of the same like she would do with Bethany, would take her on trips and buy her things and stuff like that. And Cece and Bethany had met each other through these trips. Sometimes Jessica would take them both at the same time. So Cece knows who Bethany is. So the night that Alison went missing, Jessica called Cece, really, really worried, and told her to stay inside, stay safe, because Bethany's escaped Radley, and she doesn't know if anybody is safe, and they all just need to stay inside and stay aware. But Cece is like, hold on, I'm not having this. I'm not having, no. Cece instead is like, right, I'm going to go find Bethany myself. So then, Wren continues watching from a distance. Cece hits Bethany, right? And Melissa, same structure as the actual story. She saw Alison and Spencer arguing, and then she stumbled across the body. She thinks it's Spencer, so she ends up burying Bethany alive. Wren, the handy doctor, once Melissa is gone, no one's around, he pulls Bethany out of the, the pit that she's buried in. And because he's a doctor, he fixes her up. He's like, you'll be fine. Don't worry. You'll be fine. Do you know what I mean? During the 1 year gap, so when Alison goes missing, because the Alison story kind of stays the same in terms of Miss Grumble pulls her out, Mona finds her walking, fixes her up, persuades her to kind of start a new identity. That stays the same. But during the 1 year kind of break, where like Arya goes to Iceland and things like that, Wren meets Sarah Harvey, who is on the run, and he kills Sarah Harvey, buries her in the pit that Bethany and Alison were buried in, and swaps the DNA. So when Sarah's body is found, he swaps the DNA so the body would be identified as Bethany, so Bethany can go and live her life under a new identity of Sarah Harvey, and so that no one will be looking for her and people would think that she's dead, so she can go and live her life. So he swaps the DNA. Okay, so obviously Mona takes the role of A from season 1 to 2, and when Mona gets admitted to Radley after she's revealed who is her doctor, I'll let you guys answer that. Wren. Kind of similar to how Cece took over the game from Mona, Wren hears the stories about her being A, and he still has that, like I said, mental instability in his mind because of the trauma that he's faced growing up. Like, imagine that amount of trauma. So there's always something in the back of his mind that's kind of evil. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So he gets intrigued. He's like, you know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the game from you, hon. I'm going to take over. He, like I said, he's mad with the whole town because he was never accepted for who he was. And he felt abandoned kind of by the whole town. And obviously his main target was Alison. And who better to target? The girls. And who better to target than Alison's best friend? And to kind of continue the fear that A had spread within the town and within the girl group and within Alison, who still kind of had to keep away. So he was like, I'm going to take this on. Give me the crown. So in my story, Bethany is Redcoat and Black Widow. So Wren ultimately uses her as kind of a decoy and to kind of scare the girls into being like, look, I have a team. There's more than one of me. And there's this scene here in Bethany's funeral where Black Widow comes to see her. And in my story, Bethany is Black Widow and she goes to the funeral to kind of mourn her old life and to mourn, you know, what she's left behind and come to terms with the new life that she has. I'm just going to drop some evidence in here. A lot of the bulk of this theory, I've done a video on the Wren is Charles theory, and I'll leave that down below. So a lot of this evidence is within that, and a lot of the bulk of this story or theory, slash rewrite, whatever, is from that theory. So I'm using that as kind of like a base and then making my own connections and things like that. Anyway, so some evidence. Marlene King posted this photo of Charles and captioned it with an apple a day keeps Charles away, obviously with the famous phrase of an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And who is a doctor on the show? Wren. Wren and A both had OCD. So Wren was in the season 1 premiere and the season 3 premiere, and both of these premieres had their own respective A stories start. Mona's A, Cece's A in the show. So he's kind of always there from the beginning. Mrs. Grunwald tells the girls later on in the show that the one they fear the most has already touched them. And when I watched this for the first time, I automatically went to the scene of Wren giving Spencer a massage, because obviously anyone could touch them. Do you know what I mean? But this is like real touching, like real, you know, massaging, touching, that type of thing. I always kind of connected it to that. And then obviously A trashes Dr. Sullivan's office and spray paints "Nosy Bitches Die" on it, and this is the British spelling of it rather than the American spelling of it. And who is British on the show? Exactly. One of the first big A texts was this, saying Mona played with dolls, I play with body parts. And obviously Wren is a doctor, so he would have the ability to play with body parts. This scene to me always felt a bit weird, because when they revealed it as Cece, I didn't get the vibe from this scene with it. Obviously this scene here, Charles looking at Spencer, and Spencer says that Charles was someone she felt really familiar with, and obviously her and Wren were really close and had a bit of a relationship here and there. So I always kind of connected those dots, because personally I don't think this makes sense if it's Cece, because she knows who Cece is, but they aren't close like she is with Wren. So for her to say something along the lines of, oh, like they were really familiar, I think Wren ultimately fits that criteria. And then obviously Wren worked with Eddie Lamb. Eddie Lamb was the first one to say there were security issues when Wren first worked there. And as soon as he said that, he just disappeared. So in my rewrite, Wren does die after this reveal. You know the scene where they go to the roof and they're like, no, don't jump. In my story, I have two alternate ways that Wren would die on this roof. So either he jumps off the roof, plain and simple, or the liars and him have a little bit of a scuffle, and they don't directly push him off, but it leads to him falling off the roof. And when I was making this, I didn't know whether to keep Wren alive or not. Obviously Cece was kept alive for a little bit, but I think with my rewrite and the story that I've gone down, the route I've gone down, I don't really think, I think Wren's story is done. Like, I think it's complete. with Cece, we didn't really see her much past her reveal, but obviously during the 5-year time jump, she went to Welby and she kind of got herself good, and then obviously she died, and that was the main story of Uber AD. But I think in my rewrite and the route that I've gone down for the next A, I don't think it makes sense for Wren to still be alive in my story. I think his story has ultimately come to an end. He's told his story. He's been there since the start. It's kind of come a bit full circle. And I don't see any reason for his story to progress further just because of where I've gone with the next A. So in my story, Wren does die. And he dies on that roof. Whether it's him jumping or the liars have a little bit of a part in it, I guess. They didn't directly kill him, but like in a scuffle. That could be up to you guys and what you would want to fit in the story. But I couldn't pinpoint one because I like both of them. So yeah, that's up for some debate. However, the story does not end there because, guys, when I say I've connected AD and Big A so well, not to gas myself up, toot my own horn, but like I kind of did it. Oh my god! Because my problem with AD was always that AD, there was some connection, but it was kind of like, okay, she's come out of the blue. Alex has come out of the blue. We don't know who this girl is, but I've really have connected it, and I've connected it from before the show even starts, the pre-show, should we say. And I'm really happy with how this has turned out. So the story does not end there, because how is AD and Big A connected? Well, I'm excited. Wait, no, because like I'm excited. Everyone be quiet right now. Let's take a moment's silence. Okay, so who else was in Radley the same time as Wren and Bethany? Are you ready? I've got an itch in my nose. Hold on. Are you ready? No, sit down. Sit. Miss Arya. Okay. Interesting. Right, let's continue this. Byron mentions in season 1 that his family have a history with mental illness. We obviously see Mike experience depression throughout the show. And ultimately throughout the show, Arya deals with forms of a personality disorder. Now, this is not me trying to in any way disrespect a disorder like this or make light of it or make fun of it or whatever, because it's such a serious thing. But throughout the show, she has hints of this through the show. Always portrays her as looking into like there's always reflections. The show opens with her standing in front of a mirror. Season 1, episode 1, it opens with her standing in front of a mirror. And season 3, episode 1, it also does the same. And there's a lot of times where you see reflections of Arya through a mirror, possibly foreshadowing some type of split personality disorder. She also has a lot of hallucinations on the show. There was one where she was in the bathroom and like she thought she saw A in there and things like that. There's a lot of hallucinations that she goes through. Same with like when she dreams that she sleeps with Jason and things like that. She also has quite a few outbursts on the show. She trashes Ezra's apartment after she finds out about the book, and she also trashes Byron's office after she finds out about the affair that he's having with Meredith. Now, get this, okay? Get this. This is something that you need to remember for a bit later on, right? Cece kills Bethany about, I want to say season 5-ish, but we actually don't find this out until the AD reveal. But you need to keep this in mind, okay? Cece kills Bethany. Yeah. For the AD reveal, AD recruits Mona. And you know in the season 7 finale when Mona knocks out Spencer and she like takes her to like that like underground bunker thing or whatever it was. In my story, Mona one by one does it to every liar. So they are all each in their individual cells. Much like this, you know, where Spencer is here, every liar has their own cell. Okay, so they're all there together. A is leaning against a wall, much similar to the Charles reveal, back towards the liars. Everyone's like, oh, girl, it's A. A slowly turns around, and obviously it's Miss Arya. You're a killer, not Ezra's wife. It's Arya. They're flabbergasted. They're like, what on no, I'm not having this. They're like, whoa. Get this. Arya's story. All along, Arya was in Radley as a child with Bethany and Wren, and they all formed a really close bond. When Wren went to live with his biological dad, her and Bethany were literally best friends. Inseparable. Like, literally inseparable. Arya was allowed to go live back with her family a bit later on in her life, and when Bethany went missing that night, the year that Arya spent in Iceland was due to that. Arya's parents knew that she had a friend in Radley who had gone missing, but they didn't know who the friend was. But they thought, along with Alison's disappearance and Bethany's disappearance, they would take Arya away to Iceland for a year to kind of get away from everything. But also, Byron was obviously having his affair, so there was multiple reasons why they went to Iceland, but this was one of them. This links with, do you remember the scene where Eddie Lamb turns to Arya and he's like, I feel like we've met before? And Arya tries to drastically change the subject. Now, in my story, he recognizes her because she went there as a child. And because this scene was so weird to me before, because it was like, okay, they've dropped this. A staff member at Radley recognizes Arya but doesn't know where from. Well, in my story, it's because she was there as a child, but then was able to go live back with her family. So now Arya's grown up. He's like, hold on. So the file. In season 7, there is a storyline where AD is blackmailing Arya with a file. At the time of watching this show, because I was a huge Arya is a phenomenon, experts, right? I thought the file was that she was at Radley. And she obviously had not told her friends or Ezra about this, and she wanted to keep it a secret. And that's why she worked with A to keep the file a secret. However, we find out the file is actually, she made a police report about Ezra back in the day, and like that was it. So that is what the file was. And then this continues because when the girls go and see Dr. Sullivan, all of the girls have a file, okay? But all of the girls' files were handwritten rather than typed. But the only one that was typed was Arya's file, which shows that she had gone to therapy before. Why would she go to therapy before? Maybe it's because she was at Radley. Don't shoot the messenger, everybody. Don't shoot the messenger. Like I said, we can see that she has these outbursts and she has anger within her. She trashes multiple offices. And yeah, the anger is very much there. So, remember how Cece killed Bethany? Right. Arya found out about this at some point in the time jump. Beginning, middle, or end, I'm not too certain on. I want to say end a bit more, but nonetheless, Arya found out about this. When Arya comes back to Rosewood at the end of the time jump, she kills Cece. Right. Not Mona. She kills Cece. Throughout the rest of the show, this anger takes over her. She enjoyed killing Cece so much that she felt some kind of like high from it. What's that saying? If you don't die the hero, you live long enough to become the villain. Like that type of thing. She's like, you know what? This town has utterly destroyed my life. And she has a lot of anger towards Allison and the girls. So she ultimately takes on the A persona. She wants revenge for everything. She just wants revenge for everything. For Bethany, for Wren, for everything. So the only thing Arya knows is A. So she's like, right, but I'm going to become A then. I'm going to do it. Why not? She's extremely mad at Allison because Allison was ultimately the reason why Bethany had to run away, and therefore why Bethany was in a situation where she got killed, essentially. And Cece was a part of Allison's family, as Allison's cousin. So she just felt enraged with that whole family, the entire family, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, everything should always go back to Allison De Laurentiis and the De Laurentiis family. Everything should be full circle and ultimately come back to that. So in this underground bunker, Arya is explaining her story, and the liars, they don't even feel sympathy. They just feel total anger because Arya has obviously been their friend this whole time. And they feel more betrayed than anything. They're really hurt. Arya apologizes. She's quite sympathetic in the terms of like, guys, I'm sorry, but like you just wouldn't understand. Like you just wouldn't get it type of thing. I have said here, I don't think Arya should die. In my rewrite, she doesn't die. Instead, she gets arrested and she gets put into Welby, which is obviously like the Radley. When Radley gets closed down, they open up Welby. She doesn't die, and that obviously leaves it open for something like the Perfectionist maybe to continue that story or something like that, but it kind of leaves it a bit more open because at the end of the day, everything always comes back to Radley. All roads lead to Radley. Yeah, and that's it. That's it. I really enjoyed making this theory, and making the connections is so cool to me because not only have I connected Wren to kind of pre-show where it should always begin, but I've also connected AD with Arya back to the pre-show. So it's always been from the beginning. These things have been brewing. There's been tension going along, things that have happened that we don't know about, and it's ultimately been brewing, and these characters have turned into these villains because of these things that we don't find out about. And it links with everything. Bethany's anger towards Jessica, Cece's death being something that Arya does to get revenge for Cece killing Bethany. I think this is just such a good way of linking everything, because then everything is full circle. The show opens with Arya. One of the first scenes is Arya literally looking into a mirror, right? And then the last few scenes of the show would be Arya getting arrested because it's come full circle, and she's now closing the show with her being the villain. I think it's so cool. I think it's such a cool route to take. And I think the A's are both shocking, but not shocking just for the plot and just for like audience, haha, I got you, like you didn't expect this, but they're a shock in terms of like, wow, like this is like real deep roots in the show and in the story that we obviously before did not know about. I'm really happy with how I have rewritten the finales. I think it links Eddie Lamb as well, because Eddie Lamb was something, and obviously the Miss Arya, You're a Killer Not Ezra's Wife, was obviously before Cece's death. However, that would have been crazy foreshadowing. Miss Arya, You're a Killer Not Ezra's Wife, and then she kills Cece. I'm sorry, the gaggery. Come on now, everybody. Yeah, that is my rewrite of the finales. I'm content with the season 2 finale, and I don't think that needs a rewrite. But it was just season 6 and season 7 that I'm just like, right, if I was doing it, what would I do? You know? But make sure to comment down below. Oh my god. Make sure to comment down below what your opinion on this theory. Even if you don't agree with it, I would love to hear points in this theory that maybe don't make sense, or maybe there's a lack of connection or something like that. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear your overall opinion on the rewrite, sorry. And if you were rewriting Pretty Little Lies, would you have taken this route, or would you have taken a different route? Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.